That girl was a piece of work. I mean, is that really enough to want people dead though? I mean, to me it's not, but like, dude, terrible instincts. But like Detective Dan Riley, I was not satisfied with the ending. It was definitely worth a read, and don't just take it from me. Hi, my name is Terry Wessel, and welcome back to Panic at the Book Club. This week we'll be discussing Night of the Party by Anna-Lou Weatherley. If you do want to be a part of this little online book club that we've got going here, I do list the next 4 books below and on TikTok, along with the discussion dates, and I do accept your book feedback in a wide manner of ways. Want to comment your thoughts below? Sure. Want to send me a short clip of you discussing the book? Go ahead. Or you could also just send me a direct message on Instagram, whichever way best suits you. Do I expect you to read a book every single week? Absolutely not. But unlike most book clubs, this way you get to choose the genre for you, as well as the ideal time frame to read it in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and maybe even give us a follow on TikTok. That way you can be alerted for new content and be made aware of what books we'll be reading next. One night, in a beautiful house surrounded by woodlands, the Drayton family and their friends enjoy a dinner party. The wine is flowing and a meal has been lovingly prepared, but it'll soon become a night that none of them will forget. The night of the party is about a 17-year-old girl, or should I say it's about unfolding her murder. We follow Detective Dan Riley as he uncovers a ton of secrets. If you haven't read Night of the Party yet, I would suggest going doing that first, because from here on out, there will definitely be spoilers. Although the book was primarily through the eyes of Detective Dan Riley, some chapters were through the perspective of some of the other characters. Important clues were revealed through some of Libby's chapters, and you couldn't help but feel some of the pain and despair that Evie was going through as she discovered what happened to her daughter. There were a lot of characters in this book, and although it was written really well and they did a really good job at defining the different characters, I couldn't remember half of the characters' names in this book. Now, in real life, I am terrible with names, and now apparently that extends to names in books too. Detective Dan Riley. Weirdly enough, despite the fact that most of the book was from his perspective, I didn't actually really have much of an opinion about him. I mean, he was a really good character, he was really well written, he was a great detective, but the book wasn't really about him. Not really. At the beginning, you are made to feel genuinely sorry when the body of Libby Drayton is discovered. But then, the more you find out about her, the more secrets that get told, the more it gets revealed exactly what it was that she was up to. You can kind of see why she ended up in that situation. I mean, no one deserved that, but you can kind of see why her decisions may have led things that way. That girl was a piece of work. Like, I don't think there was a single person in this book who didn't directly benefit from her death. If she wasn't threatening them or blackmailing them, then she was just straight up ruining their lives, or even planning to murder them. Definitely made for an interesting read. I mean, it's no true crime, but imagine being the only victim ever to not be described so lovingly by your friends and family. She was kind and gentle, and she would do anything for anybody. Nah, she was blackmailing her own father. I mean, I think she was definitely a sociopath, but maybe there was something a little more going on too. I mean, she genuinely seemed to think that her mum tried to kill her. And her dad's a lying, cheating ass. I mean, is that really enough to want people dead though? I mean, to me it's not, but maybe to someone mentally unstable it is. I mean, looking back, Libby's dad, Tom, didn't really seem to have all that significant role. I mean, he was a manipulative liar and a cheat, sure, but his character just didn't really seem to have that much presence. Even though for part of the book I thought he did it. And I was there for that. I wasn't disappointed by the idea of that. Yeah, I definitely thought he did it, and I thought it was going to uncover this whole thing. I thought maybe it was going to uncover that he was in on the whole drug thing, and maybe even forcing his daughter to do all these things. But nah, that was a flop. But maybe the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I did feel pretty bad for Evie. I mean, with all these lies and secrets and everything unfolding, and I did start to think, maybe she did try and kill her daughter when she was 4. Postpartum depression is a serious thing. But then you find out it was one of her best friends who did it, and she'd gone years blaming herself. Even her own daughter blamed her. The woman loses her daughter, loses her husband, loses her best friend. Man, that's shit. Libby's brother Brandon. Now, I didn't have a huge opinion on him either. It is pretty crappy what Libby tried to do. I mean, even though the investigation basically summarised that it wasn't true and none of that really happened, it's still going to leave some people behind thinking that he's a bit of a pervert. Even after death, Libby got exactly what she wanted. Just a little side note, what is it with books pinning step-siblings and half-siblings against each other? At this point, it's a bit of an overdone cliche. Jim. Now, I did feel bad for Jim a little bit. Apart from the dad, I felt bad for pretty much everyone that Libby was taking advantage of. But at the same time, he really grossed me out. I know she manipulated him, but sleep with your best friend's 17-year-old daughter. Also, why the hell move the body? Dude, terrible instincts. Poor Sarah. Another mother who damn near lost everything. That seems to be a common occurrence with these thriller books. Her abusive husband unalived himself because he found out that Tom was taking advantage of her. But then her own son unalived himself because Libby was taking advantage of him. I get why she turned herself in, but like Detective Dan Riley, I was not satisfied with the ending. In a way, Emily was also taken away from Sarah. Maybe Sarah even blamed herself for what happened, but I just feel like Detective Riley really should have found a way to get the truth out. That way, if Emily was really capable of such a horrific crime, then at least she would get the help she needs, as well as potentially prevent anything like that from happening again. I didn't particularly like the fact that it was Emily. I don't really like the fact that books have started making it common that, yes, the disabled people did it because, yes, they had a reason to, but also because they're disabled. It's not nearly as shocking as they think anymore, and it's just feeding into some very toxic and very incorrect stereotypes. Also, it wants me to believe that someone with the mind of a 7-year-old has sleptwalked that far out into a secluded woodland area, just so happens to come across Libby, someone that they would rightfully have this grudge against, to then do such a horrific crime, only to then go on believing that it was all a dream. Like, I can forgive that it wasn't someone from the party, but I didn't like the fact that it wasn't someone with a purpose. You know, someone who sought her out, this crime that was described as having so much hatred behind it. Overall, I did enjoy the book, but I couldn't help but feel that the ending was a little bit anticlimactic. When Evie goes to see Sarah, it just seemed really clear to me that it was Emily. Not to mention, when Sarah then ends up at the police station, it seemed painfully clear. Honestly, I think I would have rather they went down the dad murder, in on the drug deal kind of route, because although it would have been a bit of a cliche, there would have been so much they could have done with that. Would I recommend? Yes, definitely. I think even though I didn't agree with the ending, I did really enjoy the book. It did have you guessing and coming up with new theories constantly. Shelley on TikTok said there were lots of twists and turns, but she couldn't help being annoyed at how naive Evie was. Then again, it's not exactly easy to question the ones you love. I agree, I found it really surprising that Evie never suspected or realised Libby's behaviour or even her extracurricular activity. She was up to some messed up stuff, and so was her husband. I mean, she never even thought to question whether or not this woman who was accusing her husband of assault might have been right, might have been telling the truth. Shelley also said that despite the fact she usually needs about 3 weeks to read one of these books, she actually read this one in 5 days, so it was definitely worth a read, and don't just take it from me. But let me know what you thought. Did you enjoy the book?
Right. What do I have to say about this book? She behaves in a purely selfish manner. There were very few characters that you could see as redeemable. They're all nasty, horrible scumbags out for themselves. And the fact that the author seemed happy to lay the blame at a mentally challenged young lady, I think was ultimately not a positive thing to be putting out in the world. I mean, I fell for multiple red herrings throughout the book. I don't know. Horrible book. I enjoyed it, contrary to my presentation of what I thought of it.
So next week we'll be discussing Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. So don't forget to get your comments and thoughts in by Monday the 24th of July at the latest to be a part of the discussion. You can now do this on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, honestly, whichever way you prefer. The following week we'll be discussing The Girlfriend by K.L. Slater. Now don't forget, if you do need a little bit longer to read a book, I do now list the next 4 books and the discussion dates down below so that you can choose which one best suits you. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you all next week. Bye.